What a day! What a day, my friends. Dear Member of Parliament, dear Rahul Gandhi, Madame la Ministre, chère Brune Poisson, Monsieur le Ministre, cher Hubert Védrine, Monsieur le Ministre, cher Brice Lalonde, Your Excellencies, dear Ambassadors, dear Dean of PSIA, cher Arantxa, dear Professor Christophe Jaffrelot, dear guests, dear professors, dear students. Mr. Gandhi, this is a special day for us. This is a special day in your university. Welcome to Sciences Po and thank you so much for your presence in Paris, on our campus. You're just arriving from Brussels. I think that tomorrow you will be in Rotterdam. And we are very, very happy to have you with us today at Sciences Po. It's a great honor for me to welcome you to our university for this unique opportunity for a dialogue with our students and faculty. There is no need to say what an important Indian leader, and I must say a worldwide leader you are, and what role you have played for almost 20 years in the public arena. You currently serve as a member of the Indian Parliament from Kerala, and you used to serve as the president of the Congress Party, today's main opposition party to the party in power. You are one of the most important voices in today's India, and you have emerged as a strong voice on the wider international scope. And I have to say, I must admit that I'm also very impressed by your 25 million followers on X, formerly Twitter. Thank you for coming to Sciences Po at this very specific moment of time. We are very much aware of everything you went through in the last month. You are also visiting us on the eve of the G20 summit hosted in Delhi, while BRICS have just extended their network to 6 new countries. The key role of India grows every day, and we are delighted to offer our students the unique opportunity to listen to you and exchange with you, along with Professor Jaffrelot and Dean Gonzalez. My dear friends, again, Mr. Gandhi, thank you for choosing Sciences Po during your short visit to France. We all look forward to this 90 minutes with you. Thank you very much. Tani Ya Vad. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Matthias. This was a very good way to start what we hope would be a great dialogue. So we've been following your Bharat Jodo Yatra across India. We've seen the many kilometers that you've done over 137 days. We're really grateful that you took a detour to come to Paris. And the first question I would have for you is, we look at India and we see a country whose economy is growing, a country which creates technology, that innovates, but also a country with millions of people still in extreme poverty. So what is it that needs to be done to make sure that all these citizens are not left behind, that they also enjoy the benefits of this global progress?
I mean, that's a very complicated question. First of all, thank you for having me here. It's an honor to be here. I'd rather be sitting there, frankly, but I don't have that choice anymore. Thank you for your time. India in our constitution is defined as India, that is Bharat, a union of states. So these states, they have got together and formed India or Bharat. And the most important thing is that the voice of all the people who are included in these states is heard loud and clear, and no voice is crushed, intimidated, because I believe that India has an inherent wisdom, that it has a very long history, a long tradition. And my experience has been that regardless of whether people are poor or rich, they have a sense of what India should be doing and where it should be going. So to me, the first step is protecting that voice and making sure that the institutions, the structures that protect that voice are working and are defended. That's where the whole thing begins. And I state that because when we use words like democracy, what we're actually talking about is the voice of people. And listening effectively to that voice, allowing that voice expression is central to any success. And we've experienced that pretty much everything that we've achieved so far, whether it is our economic growth, our ability to manage our differences, the bedrock of it is this idea that we protect the voice of all our people. And our leader, Mahatma Gandhi, said it best when he said that the most important voice is the one that's last in the line. It's the most difficult voice to protect. And a nation that is doing that will succeed.
Wow. I was quite impressed by that answer and the link that you make to democracy. India is a very diverse country. It's probably much more diverse than the average of any of our countries, certainly more than Spain or France. How does one make democracy work in such a diverse country?
I mean, I think when people come from outside India and they have a vision of India, and in their mind they compare India to Spain or France or Germany, a much better comparison is the European Union, right? So India is much closer. Imagine a European Union that was an economic union and a political union that had a central parliament. That's India, right? So the deeper you take representation, the more you extend representation, the more you decentralize power, the easier that conversation becomes. Top-down structuring almost always doesn't work out. I'll give you an example. One of the most successful programs that we had in our last government was called the Mahatma Gandhi Manrega. It's a guaranteed work program, right? And that program started off in one district. It was tested, it was successful, and then it was scaled up from that one district to the whole of India. So that to me is the correct way to think about it. Don't think about it as top down. Think about it as voice and bottom up. And it's amazing to me how quickly information flows in India. I mean, literally something happens in Karnataka, in Kerala, thousands of kilometers away, and the system knows. Immediately we're like, they'll tell you, oh, look, that has happened over there. So it's a very vibrant, dynamic system. But it needs to be thought of bottom up, and it needs to be thought of through a lens of empowerment of large masses of people.
So, Christophe, you've been certainly observing India very closely. What would you say is where we should be putting our focus when we look at India from a democracy point of view?
Well, that is something we can look at in connection to the previous question, diversity and democracy. We tend to consider that democracy has a problem with diversity. Far from that. In fact, democracy is at a crossroad in India today, I would say for two reasons. One, institutions are not what they used to be. There is a kind of deinstitutionalization of the country. And the moment you return to the arrangement that is there enshrined in the constitution, you make democracy work, even in a better manner because federalism flourishes. So democracy is supported by diversity if you respect the federal arrangement that is there in the constitution. Plus, of course, democracy is not only based on elections. The populists would like us to believe that when you vote, you're in democracy. Well, it works only if you have the rule of law, because elections are not an even playing field the moment you don't have the rule of law. Money power, muscle power makes such a big difference. So that's another way to respond to this question. Make the institutions sufficiently strong again for making elections an even playing field. And make the constitution also at work in terms of federalism. Interestingly, we have, and that's why I say democracy is at a crossroad in India, we have a coalition in the making on the opposition side that gathers together many parties, 20 plus. And that can be seen as a weakness. How can a government be stable when you have so many parties in the coalition? Well, if you remember the number of parties which were there supporting Manmohan Singh governments between 2004 and 2014, 15 and more than 15, you realize that there is absolutely no contradiction, on the contrary, between democracy and coalition governments. Manmohan Singh governments had a record growth rate, right to information, right to education, right to food, NRHGA, plus federalism at its best, and stability for 10 years, the same prime minister. So there are responses to the challenges. There are challenges, but there are responses to these challenges, and they are there. They are in the Constitution of India in the first place.
Thank you. Let's look at one area where citizens are really asking for action. If we are talking about democracy, citizens are asking for action on climate change. This is now an existential threat. And it's not just climate change, it's degradation of our environment, water, pollution, which enormously affects one part of the Indian population, precisely those that are probably disproportionately on the poor side, which is farmers. So tell us, what's your vision for accelerating the fight against climate change in India?
Well, India has a lot of poor people. And so having the type of conversation you have here about climate change is much more difficult. It's when people's basic needs have been met and you start speaking to them about climate change, they can say yes. But when basic needs have not been met, when people are hungry, when people are struggling, then that conversation is much more difficult to hold. So that's one problem that comes. So as far as the local environment issues are concerned, people understand them very quickly. So, for example, there have been floods in Himachal Pradesh. The whole of Himachal Pradesh knows that there's something very wrong, right? And those are relatively easier to deal with, right? Because there is a political will, there is a political expression that comes. Whereas the larger, sort of bigger questions, they don't enter the discussion, the political discussion so easily. From an Indian perspective and a global perspective, it's pretty clear that we are entering a number of transitions, right? So the one big transition is the energy transition, moving from hydrocarbons to greener energy. The other big transition is the transition in mobility, so moving from internal combustion engine to circular motion, motors, batteries. And on that, I think there is consensus that India needs to aggressively move towards greener energy systems and needs to have a clear strategy on how to make this transition. And that discussion is ongoing in India, and it's broadly heading in the correct direction.
I'm going to open the floor to you in a moment, so start getting ready. There are mics on both sides of the aisle, so you have to queue, as is the tradition, and you will put the question forward. But before we do that, and while the students break the ice, there is at the moment a big international gathering taking place in India. It's called the G20. So on which side is India in international relations? At the end of the day, this is also a place where we study international affairs, right? So on whose side is India?
You know, there was a leader in India once, and they were asked, on whose side are you? Do you lean left or do you lean right? And she said, no, we stand straight in the middle. So I don't, when you're dealing with a country the size of India, we have to have relationships with multiple different countries. And I think it's a simplification to say, whose side are you on? The blunt answer to that is we are on our own side. And as a nation, we act in our interest. And we do whatever suits us with regards to our interest. I don't think it's so black and white. Are you on this person's side or are you on that person's side? For a large country like ours, it becomes very difficult to come up with an answer for that. But we do have a strong view that voice and democracy are important. And you, Professor, spoke about democracy, and I stress the word voice, because it goes to his point. You can have a democracy without giving people voice. You can construct structures that actually don't end up giving people voice. So when we think about democracy, it's very important to remember that the entire structure of democracy is designed to guarantee voice. So that's something that in India we're very particular about. Frankly, because as a union, we would not survive without it. If we simply would not be able to manage the complexity, the diversity of our country without giving free expression to the voice of our people. It would be impossible to do, right? So we're committed to it, but we also need it.
Well, very important question indeed. And there is a consensus clearly in India. The legacy of non-alignment finds expression today in new words such as plurilateralism. And indeed, every political force is in favor of a multipolar world, a world in which India could relate to different power centers. So the EU is a pole, Russia is a pole, the US. The question I have more and more at the back of my mind is this tenable in a world that is more and more bipolar? And the way BRICS have been expanded recently, an initiative taken by China, shows that there is an attempt at building a camp that would be large enough for competing with the existing multilateral system the UN has created. And I wonder whether India will not have to take side at one point, primarily because of China. Because China is posing a threat to India in the Himalayas, posing a threat to India in its neighborhood, Sri Lanka, Nepal. China is the #1 trade partner of India with a huge deficit. The dependency of India vis-à-vis China is absolutely amazing. So can India remain, I would say, equidistant in a world that becomes more bipolar at a time when China is not coming to the G20, which is a way to tell the world, this is not my system anymore. And India is inviting everybody minus China. So that's only for the next meeting, probably.
But you know, I mean, I'm sure many of my friends from India will understand this. This notion of, you know, clear-cut black and white, this is not an Indian notion. Indian people, their basic architecture is designed to deal with much more complexity and much more nuance. So I don't necessarily buy the, you know, you're either on this side or you're on this side. But I can see clearly that there is a problem, right? And that problem requires a solution. It's a global problem. And more than a global problem, it's a problem for India, it's a problem for Europe, and it's a problem for the United States. And frankly, it's a problem for all of you in this room, because you're going to have to deal with the problem. And the problem is that we have a planet today where the bulk of production, the bulk of manufacturing, the bulk of value addition is being done in China. And I'm not going to comment on whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. The Chinese have successfully competed against us and achieved it, right? There is a problem with, in my view, there is a problem with the way they do it. They produce, they're very good at producing, they produce the phone in my pocket, they produce the camera, but they do it in non-democratic, coercive conditions. And the problem is that for us, we need to think about production in a democratic environment, production in a non-coercive environment, and we need to be able to compete with them. Meaning, they don't need to give their population political freedom. They can just give them economic freedom and then become the center of production globally. We have to produce and compete with them, and we have to give our people political freedom and economic freedom. So that is really the challenge. I don't see it as, you know, a confrontation with China. China has placed on the table a way of working, a way of production. And I think it is important for the United States, for India, for Europe, to place an alternative system, an alternative method on the table. And I think we owe it to, certainly we owe it to our population, and I think the French and the Europeans owe it to their population, because we are not going to be able to, manage our countries. We're not going to be able to give students like you jobs without doing that. So to me, it's an opportunity to say, can we produce in democratic structures, within democratic frameworks?
Thank you. So we're going to start with the questions from the floor. I would ask you to briefly identify yourselves and ask one question. It's about questions. Remember, there is no right questions or wrong questions. There is no right answers or wrong answers. There is just a polite exchange of questions and answers. Okay? Lady over there.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
My name is Lydia Jaikumar. I want to ask about the violence against minorities in India, in particular because this is close to my heart, violence, caste atrocities in India. Every day we hear, people from the Dalit community killed because, or violence against them because they went to a wedding, because they went to the school, because they, things that are our rights, just because we're, accessing it, there's violence against people in the Dalit community. What do you think needs to be done? Because it's societal, but it's also institutional, and it seems like there is no answer to it and there is no help from it. So.
No, there are. I think it needs to be combated. I think it requires a political imagination, and I think it is very important that it is done. What the BJP and the RSS are trying to do, the heart of what they're trying to do, is trying to stop the expression, the participation of lower castes, other backward castes, tribals, and minority communities. And for me, in India, where a Dalit person or a Muslim person, tribal person, upper caste person, anybody is being mistreated, is being attacked, is not the India I want. So I think it's very important that this question is taken head on, but I don't think that the type of political imagination that is required is currently there. It ebbs and flows. So you have these movements, you have this expression, and then they ebb away. And I think we're at one of those points where they've sort of ebbed away, and we need to reconstruct the political imagination that will, solve the problem you're talking about. For me, this is the central problem in India. This is bigger than any other problem.
Thank you. Gentleman over there.
Hi, thank you for the conversation. My name is Tanishq Saha, and I guess I had a question related to a term you used earlier on in the speech, Bharat. And there is a lot of discussion going around social media right now with a potential renaming, rebranding, whatever you might call it. But does this kind of change of a more popular name? We all know India has been named Bharat since its inception, but is there a point or some value to be derived in changing this name in the international perspective, in the weight we can bring to discussions, to be on our own side as you speak?
Well, the Constitution actually uses both names, right? So the line in the Constitution is the line I started with. India, that is Bharat, is a union of states. So I don't really see a problem there. Both words are perfectly acceptable. But I think maybe we irritated the government a little bit because we named our coalition India, so that got them all heated up. And now they've decided to change the name of the country. I mean, you know how these things are. I mean, we could always give our coalition a second name as well. So, I don't think it'll solve the purpose. But people act in strange ways. What do you think about it?
I personally believe it might not be the best thing to focus on right now, especially given that the country is at it's at the focus of this big summit that's taking place. World leaders are there to discuss so many different issues. I found that it could have been something that could be tabled for a later moment if it was necessary, and focus about issues inside and other issues.
You're right, but there is something deeper that is going on, which is that people who want to change the name of anything are basically trying to deny history, right? The fact of the matter is, whether we like it or we don't like it, we have a history. We were ruled by the British. We fought the British. We defeated the British, right? I'm sure the English don't like it, but English is spoken by more Indians than English people. It's our language, more than theirs. Right? And we speak it in our own way. We twist it and we turn it maybe in ways they don't like. So the English that is spoken in India is actually a different expression, right, that is spoken in England. Embedded in that English is a huge history, a lot of pain, a lot of happiness, imagination, struggle. Those things are embedded. And the people who want to change the name want to erase that. They don't want that the history of our country is known to our future generation. It disturbs them. Right? I believe that we should accept our history. If we were ruled by the British for 100, 200 years, okay, we dealt with it, and let's move on. So it's a deeper question.
Thank you. We're going to go up there.
Hello, my name is Lydia Bilali. I am a student here at Sciences Po. And for the past 3 months, I've been interning as a research intern at the German Institute for Global and Area Studies on a project that focuses on the weaponization of anti-fake news laws in South and Southeast Asia. And I've been researching a lot of dozens and dozens of cases of journalists in India that have been targeted and silenced and punished by using the Indian Penal Code. So with this consideration, my question is double. So firstly, how can we continue justifying and saying that India is the largest and biggest democracy in the world? And two, what is the opposition doing to help these civil society members? Thank you.
I mean, I walked across the country 4,000 kilometers to raise some of these issues. What you're saying is absolutely correct. There is a tendency now to intimidate, to threaten, not just members of civil society. I have 24 cases on me. I've got a criminal defamation judgment against me. The first time in Indian history that somebody has been given the maximum sentence for criminal defamation. Very convenient that I needed the exact number of days that they gave me to be disqualified. So we are dealing with this issue. The democratic expression is deeply embedded in India. And the fight to keep the democratic structure of India alive is ongoing and very vibrant. We are part of that fight. Now, when that fight is over, if that fight is over, and the other side wins, then I would agree with you. But that has not happened yet, and I do not think it's going to happen. We are going through a process. We are going through turbulence in our democratic structure, and there are millions of people, I'm sure many, many youngsters in this room, who really believe in that democratic structure and are going to defend it with everything that they've got. So it's a fight, and I think it's also an opportunity to rethink and to reimagine our country. There are many things that can do with improvement, and I think this is an opportunity, this is a test that many countries go through, and I think we'll come out just fine in this test.
Thank you. We're going to go to the lady over here.
Hi, my name is Anna. I'm a student at Sciences Po. You spoke about the floods in Himachal. I'm so glad you brought that up, because while climate change had played a big role in the floods, one of the key factors was also the dams and the hydropower projects that have been building in Himachal. So my question to you is, what do you plan on doing about these mindless constructions that are across the country? It's not just the case in Himachal. You see this pattern everywhere where climate change and this kind of development they're going hand in hand and causing havoc, and Indians are losing lives to this.
Yeah. No, and Himachal, of course, there's a huge amount of roads that were built without proper planning, in a hurry, a huge amount of corruption that's involved there. So these things combine to give you the type of result that you got in Himachal. But it's a balance, and you have to operate in a sensitive way. If you involve people at the lower levels of the democracy, if you involve people at the ward level, at the panchayat level, they are able to give you much better feedback on how some of these problems should be solved. So it is a huge part of the problem is actually centralization of power. And the person taking the decision actually doesn't know the ground reality of what is going on. So I think in a lot of these issues, land issues, environment issues, the more aggressively you decentralize power and the more you involve people in their discussions, the better outcomes you have. And I've experienced this personally. I went to Ladakh just now, and this is a huge issue in Ladakh. And pretty much everybody over there is saying, listen, if you give us local government, we know how to handle these issues. And, running Ladakh in a centralized way is just not cutting it. And please give us the funds and allow the local representatives to do the job. So there are, decentralization of power is a very effective tool to deal with some of these problems. Also, you have to be sensitive and think a little bit about the long term. When you see what is happening in Himachal, what happened in Uttarakhand, it's short-term thinking, it's, not planning things properly and getting ahead of yourself like that.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. The gentleman over there. We have many of you. There is a lot of interest. So let's try to make it concise so that we can fit as many of you as possible. Thank you.
My name is Elias, and I'm a German-Canadian student studying international security here at Sciences Po. Under the BJP government, we've seen significantly warm ties between Israel and India. My question to you would be, if you were Prime Minister of India, how and would you change these relations? And would you change your approach to the Israeli-Palestinian issue?
I'm quite sensitive to the plight of the Palestinian people. And I think that the way the Palestinian people are being treated is not correct, is unfair, is not correct. In fact, I was reading an article just the other day where an ex-chief of Mossad has commented on this, And I think it's counterproductive for Israel to treat the Palestinians the way they're doing. However, we do have a relationship with them where they supply us with weapons, and we have sort of an important relationship with them. So you can't just wish that away and say, we're going to now change that completely. But I certainly would, tell them to think about what they're doing and the consequences of what they're doing to the Palestinian people and also to themselves. Because it is my experience that these things, these imbalances come to bite you back later. And it is always better to resolve these issues upfront, amicably, with sensitivity.
Thank you. Gentleman up.
Hi there, yes. So I am a master in social policy here at Sciences Po. While it might not quite look it, I'm actually also part Indian. And over this past few years, it's been particularly scary to see many of my friends and family members back in India become radicalized by Hindu nationalist rhetoric. My question to you is, if your coalition gets elected, where exactly do you see yourself placing the role of Hinduism in a post-BJP India? And how concretely do you propose dismantling or perhaps even transforming the legacy of a religious zeitgeist which has captured the hearts and minds of so many Indians today?
Look, I've read the Gita, I've read a number of the Upanishads, I've read many Hindu books. There's nothing Hindu about what the BJP does. There's absolutely nothing Hindu about what they do. Right? I have not read anywhere in no Hindu book, from no learned Hindu person, have I ever heard that you should terrorize, harm people who are weaker than you. I've never read this. So this idea, this word, Hindu nationalists, this is a wrong word. They're not Hindu nationalists. They are nothing to do with Hinduism. They are out to get power at any cost, and they will do anything to get power, and they will do anything to ensure that the Indian caste structure, the social structure of my country is not threatened. They want dominance of a few people, and that is what they're about. There is nothing Hindu about them.
Thank you. Very clear. Gentlemen.
Hi, thank you for being here. My name is Zaid Wahidi. I'm a lawyer based in Paris. My question is about the opposition's narrative for the next election. And I saw that Ms. Sonia Gandhi wrote a letter identifying 9 points to the Prime Minister. Is that the opposition's pitch? Because as a minority, of course, it's important for me to have the Pyar Ki Dukaan in a Nafrat Ka Bazaar. But is there another issue, or are there certain issues that you have identified that will perhaps build more consensus with even the majority community and get you where you are, where you want to be in 2024?
When you see the people on the stage in the India coalition, you must realize that more people from the majority community vote for us than vote for the BJP. 60% of India votes for us. 40% of India votes for them. Right? So this idea that the majority community is voting for the BJP, this is a wrong idea. The majority community actually votes more for us than they vote for them. Right? They do polarize society. They divide society. They spread hatred in society. And that is their mechanism. They also happen to have very good relationships with the most powerful, richest crony capitalists in the land, who finance them, support them, help them do what they do. And so this is the architecture that stands behind the BJP. The idea that Mr. Narendra Modi is orchestrating this thing is a gross simplification. Mr. Narendra Modi is an instrument of the architecture. And I'm pretty confident that the RSS can get rid of Narendra Modi in 5 minutes if they want to, right? It is a structure that is doing this. And that structure is now a threat to Indian democracy. So we are committed to fighting that structure. What are the broader elements? The first thing is the gross inequality that is taking place in India, right? Few business people who are billionaires. The third richest person on the planet was Indian, and 90% of India going back into poverty, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing is we have to solve what I was talking about earlier. We keep talking about economic growth. You read the newspapers about economic growth, right? Have you ever read in the newspaper next to the economic growth question the employment question? Has anybody in the newspaper said, wait a minute, we are growing at 7%, 8%, but we have the highest unemployment rate in 40 years? That's a much more interesting question to me. Because we can grow at 9% and give none of you jobs. Right? That's what's happening. Right? So that's the second big question. And the third question that is very close to my heart is the large mass, the real power of India is in the lower castes, the other backward castes, these communities. And they are not given any space in the governance of India. They're not given any space in corporate India. They're not given any space anywhere. And that to me is a crime. So those would be the central thrusts of how we would think about it. The final thing I would say is that one way to look at India is that it is making a transition from rural to urban. And the largest migration of people from rural to urban in human history ever is taking place in India and China, right? And if we're going to be making this transition, this is a frightening transition for a lot of people. So we need to give them the basic minimum architecture to make this transition safely. What does that mean? That we spend a serious amount of money on education, we spend a serious amount of money on healthcare, that government does not abrogate responsibility for healthcare and education, and that we provide a minimum floor where India commits to all its people that no matter what happens, you can simply not go below that floor. We will give you a minimum income below which no matter what happens, you're not going to go. But, you know, when I talk to students, especially the Indian students here, and the students who are not from India, the injustice that the caste system in India does, the pain and trauma that the caste system in India causes is beyond anything I know anywhere else in the world. And so I see my politics as challenging the idea that there should be this caste order in India, that there should be this permanent hierarchy in India, and that some people, should have access to all the institutions, all the structures, and other people should just live a life of poverty and misery. So this would be the framework that the Indian coalition would be talking about and thinking about.
Thank you. Gentleman over there.
Thank you, ma'am.
And by the way, when I said minimum floor, I didn't only mean financial floor. So I think the idea that 200 million people can feel uncomfortable in India today, or Sikhs can feel uncomfortable in India today, I think that is a matter of shame for us. And I think that needs to be corrected. And there are minorities who feel that way. There are lower caste people who feel that way. There are women who feel that way. And so we are very strongly committed to this.
Thank you, ma'am. Good evening, sir. Over here.
Sorry. I was looking at him.
So first off, I would like to really congratulate you on this Europe Jodo Yatra. And then my question for you is actually also related to the India Alliance, but it's a more psephological question. So like, I come from Maharashtra, and before this this day, this tour in Europe, you were also in Mumbai, you're also in my city. And there you had a very important meeting, the India Alliance meeting, where you basically, put forward your values and the values that you're planning for 2024. So my question is, even if the India Alliance defeats the BJP and by extension the NDA in 2024, what next? Because most of the components of the India Alliance were themselves formerly part of the NDA, and it can be perceived that these components are only there to defeat the BJP and be in power. So once they do come to power, will this Pyar Ki Dukaan, will this entire this narrative still remain, or will it just be a relapse to the mid-90s period when we did not have kind of stability? And just another follow-up.
There's just one question, remember?
Yes.
Because there is a long queue. Let's leave it there. All right.
Politics in India, in my view, changed in 2014. And the reason it changed is, for the first time, we had an organization that decided to capture and subvert the structure of democracy. This changes everything. Okay? Until 2014, political parties would fight each other. There was a level playing field. The election commission was neutral. The institutional framework was neutral, and we would fight one another. In 2014, that changed. We do not fight a political party anymore. In fact, if I told you that I'm fighting a political party called the BJP, I would be naive. Now I am fighting the Indian state, as controlled by the RSS. There is absolute consensus in the India coalition that this needs to be wound down. We do not want an India where our institutions are not neutral. It is dangerous for our country. It is detrimental for our country. It is dangerous for the politics. It's dangerous for you. So there is commitment that we will wind this thing back. Of course, there are a few partners who were members of the NDA alliance. I think Nitish ji is the only one, right? Mamta ji at some point had partnered with them, right? But India has completely changed, right? It is one thing to partner with a political party led by Mr. Vajpayee. It is another thing to partner with what is running India today.
Thank you. We go up to the gentleman.
Hello. Good evening, Mr. Rahul Gandhi. So firstly, I have one suggestion and one question.
Remember that there is a long queue waiting.
I'll be very quick, yeah.
Good.
I'll be very quick. So when people are trying to talk to you, when people are trying to reach out to the Congress party, I feel that Congress is not as receptive as it could be. I tried to sign up for the IOC about 5-6 years ago. The website never replied back to me. There are people that want to engage with you.
That's his fault, huh?
There are people that want to engage with you, even in press conferences. People are saying, hurry up, ask your question quickly. And there are people really eager to talk to you, but there's not enough channels to speak to you. That transitions to my question. Even in terms of when there is injustice and when there are people expecting your support, there are moments where we see that the Congress party is not present. So today, as we speak, G20 is happening in India. A lot of slums were demolished just because G20 visitors were coming in. And I've been watching news reports where people are saying that nobody came, not even the Congress party came. And just like you did a spin with Bharat Chodo and called it Bharat Jodo, I think this is now do or die or karo ya maro moment for India. Why is the Congress party, why is the India Alliance not present at every single injustice that is happening in the country? Thank you.
You've given me a very good idea, by the way. So I will go there now that you've suggested it. You can't be present. India is a huge country. India is extremely complicated. And physically, I can't be present everywhere. It would be crazy for me.
Sure.
Let me finish. Physically, it would be crazy for me to be present everywhere. Now, for you to say that the Congress party is not present in the slum, you're absolutely wrong. There's Congress party sitting in the slum. I can tell you, you give me the name of the slum, I'll give you the name of the worker who's sitting inside that slum, who's fighting that contest right there. Right? But what you're doing is you're saying if a leader of the Congress party isn't everywhere, then the Congress party isn't everywhere. No, the Congress party is everywhere. We have crores and crores and crores of people. We have thousands and thousands and thousands of leaders. I can tell you names of people who've got thrashed in Madhya Pradesh day before yesterday. Right? But the way the politics has shaped out, and it's not your fault, the way the politics has shaped out, the way media has shaped out, they will focus on one central point. And they will say, oh, look, this is the point where everybody should be looking. But the political battle is taking place all across the country. We've got people running around, getting beaten up, getting killed, getting shot. I can give you their names if you want to see them. Right? So don't think that I am the Congress party. I'm not the Congress party. I'm one element of the Congress party. And there is a massive organization that is countering this force. And I'm very proud of what they do. I cannot tell you how much some of our people suffer. I cannot tell you what they have to go through. So, but that is the nature of the politics now.
I did mean the Congress party, not you individually, but thank you.
Remember.
But you got my drift. But you've given me a good idea. I'm going to go to the slum there.
All right, gentleman over here will be followed by the lady over there.
Hi, my name is Mangesh Krishna.
And by the way, if you want to work with us, please, we could use someone like you, so please have a chat with him. We'll arrange it right now. Sam, your website. We are chaotic though. How do you know which one he's addressing? Okay.
Shall we take this outside the room? We'll offer the coffee. Gentleman over there.
Hi, Rahul. My name is Mangesh Krishna. I was a student at Sionspur and I come from a place very close to your former constituency in Uttar Pradesh. So my question to you is that when you ask the India Alliance to come back into power, a memory of corruption, nepotism, appeasement politics rushes back, and if you will listen to the recent few speeches of Narendra Modi, he's attacking, like this is the fight that we have to do in the next elections. So how do you propose changing that perception or that image, especially since you're here, of nepotism, since they've painted you as a poster boy, and we see more of you more than the Mr. Mallikarjun Kharge taking on questions?
No, meaning?
Meaning, how do you propose changing that perception, or what are you promising with the India Alliance that it will be any different from the previous government of 10 years that we had?
I mean, it's interesting you talk about nepotism. Can you answer me a simple question? How many politicians in India have walked 4,000 kilometers?
Not sure, like maybe with Gandhi,
I mean,
many walked, right?
You know, I mean, to say that I am not struggling, or
That's not my question. My question is, how are you proposing?
I'm answering you.
Yeah, okay.
Right? So, there is a large machine, a machine that is financed by group of crony capitalists that pushes these agendas, right? And spends thousands and thousands of crores to push these agendas. I've experienced it personally, right? There are a couple thousand BJP guys whose USP is to sit there and twist everything I say. It's a machine, okay? However, we have found that there are serious limitations with this machine. I've found that when I walked from Kanyakumari to Kashmir, the machine couldn't do anything. They kept trying, they put in their entire effort, nothing happened. Why? Because we were having a direct connection with people, right? Also, please realize that the perception that you get from the media is not the perception that a farmer in India gets. Is not the perception that a laborer sitting in a village gets. Is not the perception that a small businessman whose entire life has been blasted out because of GST and demonetization gets. He has intelligence. And he starts to ask himself questions like, why am I not able to make any money? Why is it that my business has collapsed? Why am I being forced to do this GST in this particular way so that it helps that big businessman? These are questions that are being raised. And these are questions that are changing the narrative, right? And it's very obvious to us. So it is a battle of ideas. Don't underestimate our strength. Don't underestimate the strength of the Congress party and the strength of the opposition to create a narrative. Do you feel that there is a narrative against the Prime Minister? You don't think so? Well, I certainly think so. I certainly think so. I can see it in India. I saw it. Are you telling me that there was no narrative against the Prime Minister with the farmers sitting outside Punjab? I mean, come on. Try sending the Prime Minister to those farmers and see what happens. Right? So there is a battle taking place, and we are very confident in that battle. And let's even look at what happened in the Karnataka elections. What happened to the narrative in the Karnataka elections? How come the BJP was not able to win the Karnataka elections? We changed the narrative. We made it, we constructed a narrative that destroyed the BJP's narrative. We'll do it again in Telangana. We'll do it in Madhya Pradesh. We'll do it in Rajasthan. We'll do it in Chhattisgarh. Within 3 months, you'll see it.
Sure, best of luck.
Thank you. Over there.
Hello, thank you for this insightful talk. My name is Antonia Pup. I'm a first-year master student at PSIA, and I come from Romania. And my question is regarding India's stance on the war in Ukraine. There are a lot of people on the war in Ukraine. There are a lot of people that blame India for not being that vocal anti-Russia, not being that vocal pro-Ukraine. And in this aftermath, my question is, because I don't think India is the first to blame. I think first we should look in our own backyard and try to leverage our way out of this black and white strategy that you condemned and have a more sophisticated approach to the so-called global south. Do you think we can build such strategies together, especially in the context that the security turning point is coming to your region right now?
See, I think the war in Ukraine is a tragedy. It's a tragedy for Ukrainian people. It's a tragedy for Russian people. And I think the sooner that tragedy is stopped, the better it is for everybody. India has relationships with the United States. It has a relationship with Russia. It has relationships with Europe. And India also has something called self-interest, which as a nation state tends to influence what we do, right? So some of those things will affect the way we react. But what I will leave you with is that we are in a time of transition. We're in a time where the sole superpower is being challenged. We're in a time where we are facing an energy transition, a mobility transition. And remember, the last time we went through this time, we had a world war. So we are heading into a turbulent time. And you will see more and more of these type of conflicts breaking out. They're going to happen. And I think we need to think about that, and we need to make sure that we reduce the impact of this instability. But I'm pretty sure that you will see the levels of violence increase as this transition goes through.
Thank you.
Thank you. Up there, gentlemen.
Thank you for this wonderful conversation. My name is Anubandh. I have a question that in the last 10 years, we have seen that the social fabric of India is under deep pressure. It's been damaged when it comes to the treatment of minorities, be it religious or caste, the treatment of women, the tampering of history books. So clearly, I mean, the India bloc has a political challenge ahead of them, and you do oppose the politics of BJP. But let's imagine that tomorrow India bloc comes to power. Proactively, what plans, what strategies you will put in place so that this social fabric will be repaired? And lastly, in this, how important for you is the support of non-residential Indians for the election campaign next year? Thank you.
No, I think, you know, it's not a, people don't remember this, but most of the freedom fighters in India, Gandhiji himself was a non-resident Indian. He lived in South Africa and he came back to India for the freedom struggle, right? And if you look at the top leadership of our freedom struggle, they were all people who had lived outside and had come back. So I think you're central to this struggle. You know, when you were saying that, I could sense in your voice the disturbance you felt, correct? This thing is disturbing you, that your country is taking a direction that you don't like, right? This is a very powerful thing. I was very happy when I heard you, And I said, see, there's another person who cares deeply about India and who's going to defend India, right? And who's not just going to sit there and watch the thing be attacked, right? And there are millions and millions of people like you here and in India. So you give me hope, and listening to you makes me happy. Involving people like you in the structures of governance, in the politics, involving people like you in the institutional framework of India is what we have to do. People who have a feeling that goes beyond their own personal likes and dislikes, about their personal greed, who have this feeling that actually I don't like what's going on here, and I am ready to do something about it. As I said in the beginning, we have to solve the production problem. We have to have a new imagination of production, and we have to take back these institutions that have been attacked and compromised. That would be the main space we would operate in.
Thank you. Lady over there.
Adab Rahul. So basically, I am Parma Abbas, and I am an international security student at SIA, and I'm from Pakistan. And my question for you today is, Asia currently has 3 countries which are nuclear powers, and all 3 of them share a border with each other. And if you are in power next, in the next elections, how do you attempt at least trying to promote peace within the region? Because I don't think any of those 3 countries can afford a war.
Yeah. I think, of course, it's not an easy thing that you're describing. It's a complicated and a difficult thing. But I think it's important that we think about peace between India and Pakistan, and we at least imagine the possibilities of peace between our 2 countries. That said, there is mischief that the Pakistanis get up to, and that becomes a problem for us. That becomes a little problem for us because, of course, our people get hurt. And so we need that mischief to stop, and we need this interference in our affairs to stop a little bit if we are to discuss peace with Pakistan. But saying that, and this is my experience, I don't think there is a problem between the people of Pakistan and the people of India. And if you come to Europe, you go to the United States, I'm sure over here, the people of India and the people of Pakistan get along just fine. They understand each other. And I remember when I went to watch the cricket match once in Karachi, I thought I'd landed in an Indian town. I was like, this is exactly what home looks like. So there are a lot of similarities, and I think it is the governments and that aspect that causes the problem. And I think we should think about increasing communication between our people and trying to at least build the foundation of a peaceful future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What are you studying?
International security, Asia, and intelligence.
Okay, and what are your 1 or 2 main points for me? Are you trying to figure out how to defend yourselves from us? Or are you trying to figure out how to cause problems for us, or you're thinking of a peaceful future?
I think currently we are trying to be friends with China, and you're not liking that very much. And then, since we're neighbors, I think India is also very mischievous, so something we both have to work on.
But you have to be, but you know what? You have to be very careful who you give financial control of your country to. Because you can, and I know you understand what I'm saying, because you can suddenly find yourself in a place where you didn't want to be.
Yeah.
But I think there is maybe not in the short term, but I think in the medium to long term, there is scope for peace between Pakistan and India. And I think youngsters like you should be thinking of a world where that happens.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nice.
Right. Gentlemen.
Hi, my name's Amir. My name's Amir. I'm a student in international security. And I was actually about to ask a very similar question because my dad's from Pakistan, my mum's from India.
No, so you're also from Pakistan?
Yeah, both.
Okay, so we got to line up now. No problem. I'm okay with it.
So I was going to actually ask exactly the same question about nuclear relations between the two countries, but I'm instead going to ask you a question more specifically about Kashmir and what a roadmap to peace between the two countries relating to that specific area would be.
Sorry, I can't hear what you're saying. Can you?
Yes, sorry. Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you specifically on Kashmir, what a roadmap to peace between the two countries would look like.
You know, I mean, if I knew that, I mean, there'd be no problem. I think the roadmap is complicated. With regards to Kashmir, of course, in the Congress party we had, you know, when 370 happened, we had a discussion, and our view is in our working committee resolution. We are arguing that Jammu Kashmir should be given their state back, the statehood back. But you know, the question of peace between India and Pakistan, that's a complicated and difficult question. I think what I was saying earlier about, you know, the China and the United States and the changing dynamics on the globe, I think we have to be very, very careful and very, very, very thoughtful about how we are acting.
Thank you. Up there.
Hi Rahul, my name is Chandrachud. I'm a big fan of your YouTube videos. If you want to try local food in Paris like you do in Delhi, we are happy to take you out.
Yeah?
Coming to my question, I'm from...
Are you serious about that?
For sure, yeah.
You want to do that?
Of course, yeah.
Okay, we can do that.
Coming to my question, I'm from Bangalore.
So where are you going to take me to have local food then?
The Kartier Lata.
Huh? Where is he going to take me?
So,
where is this place?
We are in the Kartier Lata. It's the student area of Paris. There are
No, but where are you going to take me for dinner?
I'll pick a place in the Kartier Lata. I'm not sure yet which one.
Okay, let us know and we'll do it.
Great. So my question, I'm from Bangalore. I studied here at Sionspo between 2012 and 2014. Then I did another master's in computer science, and now I work in AI. For many reasons, for example, creating my own startup, it would be convenient to take up the French citizenship. But as I want to continue voting in India and also maybe set up something over there, I've chosen to keep my Indian passport. Would you support dual nationalities for all Indians abroad?
I mean, these are complex questions where you can't give these things don't work that, you know, you support it so it happens. These things are much more complex discussions and they have implications. We can certainly think about it and have a internal discussion in our party about it, a serious discussion about it, but it's not something that I have really thought about in detail.
Okay, thank you.
Would you like dual citizenship?
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah? Most of you would like it, right?
So
but why? But is that a sort of a hedge?
Is it a hedge? No.
It's a little bit of a hedge?
No, you want to have the best of both worlds. Why not?
Yeah.
Okay, we're running very, very short of time, so we're going to take 2 additional questions. It's already an extra. I would like you guys to be short, the lady and then the gentleman. The lady, please.
Good evening, Mr. Gandhi. My name is Smriti Bhatt, and I'm a master's student from Social Policy and Social Innovation. As you already have answered partly my questions, I would try to keep it short. The place in Delhi which is being, where people are being mobilized in lieu of G20 is Badarpur, where you plan to go.
The slum.
G20.
Yeah, okay. Where they've been, there's slum.
Yeah. You plan to go there, so I'm just like letting you know the name of the place.
They'll be very annoyed with you, by the way.
It's okay. Yeah. It's okay. In all honesty and humility, I wish to ask you if there is a defined secularism or a future of defined secularism in the country. If the party comes to power in the next elections, how do you specifically counter the hate and the chest thumping that has happened in the past few years regarding religion and education? And you can choose to answer whichever.
You know, literally, if the Prime Minister tomorrow morning was to decide there would be no chest thumping and no violence in India, it would stop. It is the direction that the leadership of the country gives, the imagination that the leadership of a country gives, that shapes people. The feeling right now is that you can do whatever you want and nothing's going to happen to you, right? The moment the feeling becomes that there are going to be consequences to attacking someone, consequences to beating up someone, that behavior will change instantly, I guarantee you, right? That doesn't resolve the earlier question about institutions, which is this sort of disease that has now entered the Indian institutional framework, where the neutrality of those institutions has gone out of the window. And I think there, frankly, we will have to make examples of people. We'll have to make sure that some of the people who have done what they have done pay a significant price for what they've done, so that anybody who's thinking about doing it again understands that they will also pay the price for attacking the soul of India. Because that is how I see it. This is an attack on the soul of India, and the people doing this should pay a price for it.
Thank you. Thank you. And the last question goes to the gentleman.
Hi, my name is Arman. Can you hear me? Yeah, okay. So my question, I attended one of your speeches at the Bharat Jodo Yatra, and I remember when you mentioned crony capitalism, the crowd went wild. They were all like, Adani. And so there's this feeling clearly on the ground that this kind of top-down development is happening, right, in India, economic development, where there is crony capitalism, like you said. And my question is, if we are to decentralize power, where the state is less involved in all affairs, economic affairs, etc., how would you or how would your coalition ensure that the concentration of wealth does not take place in a few corporations?
By the way, just because you have decentralization of power doesn't mean the state is less involved. The state is just involved at a different level, right? But the state is still involved. The center is not involved. So for example, if you go to Kerala, I'll give you an example. I'm the member of Parliament of Kerala. If I want to take any decision in my constituency, I have to speak to the local body people. I can't just as a member of Parliament suddenly say, I now am deciding to do this. They'll come to me and say, how did you do that? You have to have a conversation with us. So it roots you very quickly, because they can charge me a price. They can send me the bill, right? So decentralization does not mean that the state is walking away. The state is just coming at in a different level. right? So what was the second part of your question?
So how would you ensure that, I mean, monopolies don't happen in India?
Look, what you're having in India today with Mr. Adani is so blatant and it's completely so over the top, right? I don't think there's any other place where this is going on. The gentleman is in, pretty much every single business, right? As people know, he's manipulating, he's sending money out of India. He's manipulating his stock price. He's using that money to buy Indian assets. It's a big circle, And part of the reason the Prime Minister suddenly got so excited about this Bharat issue is because of the Adani story. Everybody knows it, we know it, that there are very close linkages between the Prime Minister and Mr. Adani. The documentation is available, right? And he's not going to get away with it. Eventually, he's going to be held accountable for it. So it is so over the top that it's completely ridiculous. However, you can have policy structures that seriously affect how you distribute income. I'll give you an example. The GST, right, is a tax on small and medium businesses. Small and medium business has to hire an accountant, has to go through a whole process, which costs him relatively much more than it costs Mr. Adani, right? Demonetization is an assault on small businesses. Demonetization wasn't about black money. It was about breaking the back of small and medium businesses in India to pave the way for an Adani. So how you define policy and how you think about policy, where you put money, fundamentally determines how you distribute it, right? So those things are not difficult to do. Manrega, do you think Manrega distributes wealth? Hugely. Right to food distributes wealth. Supporting small and medium businesses distributes wealth. Developing skills distributes wealth. Destroying small and medium businesses concentrates wealth. GST applied the way it is concentrates wealth. What you did during COVID concentrates wealth. Giving a free pass to every large business guy and forgiving their loans and not forgiving the loans of farmers concentrates wealth. So what you do is very clear. It's not complicated. And we have a history of doing it.
Can I have the last
So
question,
as we're coming to an end, I wanted to see if you had a recommendation or a parting message for these students. At the end of the day, you're the chairman.
This is quite an unfair process here because I've been asked I don't know how many questions and I'm not allowed to ask even one question.
But that's the nature of the game.
So I would quite like to know from the students here. I mean, I didn't study in Paris. I studied in the US and in England. What is it like to study here? No, but I'm going for dinner this evening, I believe. You can come with us for dinner this evening.
I would really ask you now to give a huge applause to our guest speaker.
So should I conclude?
I think
do you want to know about riots?
I think we have concluded, yes.
I'll just say 2 words.
Please.
So just to finish and not to drag it on too long, I see a lot of Indian students here, and I also see a lot of French students, European students, and students from all over the world. I think it's very important that we build a bridge between India and your countries. And I would like to invite as many of you as possible to come to India. Of course, the Indian people come all the time, but the people who are not Indian, to come to India, take a look at what is going on, and seize a lot of the opportunities that a democratic, productive India can bring to the world. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's a chaotic and fun place. So do come. And if there's anything we can help you with, especially the Indian students, please let us know. I'm happy to come and try your restaurant with you if you want. Thank you.